If he thinks OKC could win it this year or next year, I mean,
do you think OKC can win it? You think OKC can win it this year?
OKC has a chance to win an NBA championship this year. The way SGA is playing, the way Jalen Williams is taking a jump, and he could easily be that guy to take over games, which he did. He was the
NBA championship, John?
Yes, NBA championship. Chet Holmgren as that third piece
in season 20.
Holding that defense down.
They didn't win that.
So. Yeah, but they can win it next year, and Wemby won't be in the playoffs. Chet will be a champion.
Look, OKC could beat any team in the 7-game series. OKC could beat any team in the 7-game series. This team is no joke. Like I said, SGA could be the best player on the court in a lot of playoff series.
Jalen, and this is a rhetorical question, but and I ain't saying in the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
In your experience in watching pro basketball, can you name me a team that's won the NBA championship with kids at the helm?
In their first year in the playoffs.
How old was Golden State when they first won with Steph, Clay, Draymond?
Their core was all 25 and younger.
Yeah,
25 and younger. Okay, so they're a young team.
Yeah, they were a young team.
Yeah. Now this is probably younger.
Then the 2012 Thunder didn't win, but they were a young team. They were in the conference finals in 2011 too, so they were young those years.
I don't think people understand how good Jalen Williams is.
No. The Warriors team was a little different because they still had vets like Ig. They still had David Lee, and the Thunder do got some vets too.
Bismack Biyombo.
Gordon Hayward. Steph Curry, when he won a championship, was 26 years old.
26 years
old.
And Shea's 25.
They had been in the playoffs for 3 years before that point. There were 3 playoff runs they'd had. 12-13, 13-14, and then 14-15 when they run. They lost in the second round, and then they
lost in the second round, then lost in they lost in the second round, then lost in the first round in 14.
In the first round, won the NBA championship next year. Right. So that's the thing. It's like
Oklahoma City haven't been to the playoffs in 4 years.
Done any of that.
They haven't been in the playoffs in 4 years.
One of those players, SGA, which I think he'll be an all-time great player at some point. I don't know all-time great like top 20 or anything, but he'll be one of the greatest players ever. Wasn't good in the first playing game last year, and then he was good in the second half, of one of them. But we haven't seen him versus the playoff defense yet. And guess what? In the first round, he might get Kings. Put up great numbers versus the Kings. Have a really good matchup because the King can't defend anybody. So sure, maybe they do that. But then in the second round, he can have to play one of the Clippers, one of the Wolves, one of the Nuggets, or one of the Suns, or however the matchup kind of draws out, or the Mavericks. Who knows? And then it gets even harder after that. It's not even SGA, though. We don't know what any of their role players are going to do. Cason Wallace. We don't know how Lou Dort's going to be. We don't know how Chet's going to be. We don't have any idea. I just think that's a lot to put on them to say, because that way, I don't have a disappointment for them. Whatever they do in the playoffs for me is cool. Great. First round, second round, conference finals. It's all great because they're ahead of schedule anyway, for me, personally.
It's not an expectation, though. It's just it's a possibility. If the only reason why you don't see them doing something is because you haven't seen them do it, then
exactly.
They're playing with no pressure. If no one expects anything from them, they feel no pressure to be in the postseason. A team like Denver, there's theoretical pressure for them to repeat. I don't think they feel the pressure, but theoretically, there's pressure for them to repeat. A team like Boston, there's major pressure for them to win because we're seeing what they're doing. A team like the Bucks, there's pressure for them to win. If no one expects anything from OKC, who's to say they can't go on a run? Like basketball reason. Other than just saying they haven't been in the playoffs yet, what's the reason for why they can't be
even executing in the playoffs? Execution in the regular season and performing in the regular season is different than in a playoff setting, in a half-court, slowed-down pace, where, again, there will be pressure because the situation changes. So, and NBA players talk about this multiple times. It's just when you get into that scenario, everything is basketball still, but it feels different. Everything has more gravitas to it. So I just don't know what they're going to do. This doesn't mean that, like SGA, he could be good. He could be a really good player in the playoff. But again, I think a lot of this is they're going to play versus players that we've already seen be at that level and compete at a very high point at that level. This doesn't mean they can't do it, but if they do it, great. But I also don't know, like SGA, 1A in the regular season, we'll see if he can do that in the playoffs. Again, it's all to be seen. Who knows?
And to your point, Mars, I mean, there's a bunch of teams that haven't done it, but I don't think that those teams aren't on this. I don't think those teams are on the same level. I don't think the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the same level with the Boston Celtics because they've actually done it. I mean, they've gone deep into the playoffs. Oklahoma City, with what they've had, we haven't seen them in the playoffs in 4 years.
I don't think any team
is
the Boston Celtics, though.
That's the last time we saw them in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks have actually gotten it done. Now, they've got a different unit. and we've seen Giannis get it done in the playoffs. But I think they're a little further. I think they're a little further than Oklahoma City, just off the strength of having Giannis and seeing him do it in the playoffs and him being as good as he's been, not just offensively, but defensively, also with Brook Lopez. I think they're a little further along. Does that mean that they can win it? But I think they could go a little bit further considering what Oklahoma City doesn't have, which is experience.
I'm not like, I guess where maybe it's a disagreement. I don't know. Maybe it's just a miscommunication. I agree with what Swiper said about we haven't seen it, so we don't know. My argument, I guess, is if we don't know, why is it unfathomable to say they can do it? I'm fine if we don't know, so we don't know if Shea's going to translate. We don't know if Mark Daigneault is used to the playoff setting of coaching in the postseason against different schemes and whatever. But if we don't know, why are we writing it off as if it can't happen? It can happen. It might not happen.
Right.
Like that, if we don't know, there's a gray area of all the possibilities.
Well, I think we're
reducing, we can argue it can happen. We can argue it won't.
And if you look at basketball reasons, as an offense, their team great offensively, great defensively, all basketball. They have the players to succeed. Whether it's Lou Dort helping them on defense, Chet Holmgren holding them down on defense, Jalen Williams getting you buckets, SGA getting you buckets, helping control the tempo and pace of the game. They have all the basketball pieces and play good enough basketball to win a championship. Now, and like Marcel, we understand that we haven't seen it in the playoffs, and that's fair. You know, you want to see teams perform in the playoffs. But other than that reason of not having the experience or not having been shown that they can perform in the playoffs, there are no basketball reasons why they can't win a championship.
Rebounding would be the biggest. Rebounding.
Probably their weakness. Yeah,
rebounding would be size on the interior. Rebounding
size
on the interior,
which is
all that.
So there are concerns, which is why, like, if you want to say they won't win because they're too small and Chet's too frail and they can't rebound, sure. But if like the reason is, oh well, we haven't seen it. I mean, I guess.
Well, it's got to be more, Mars. There's
plenty of things we haven't seen that end up happening. Right. So,
but more time.
Go ahead.
That's why. Anyway, so but more times than not, that's what we go off of. That's what this is about with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Sure, we just watched yesterday. One dude grabbed 31 rebounds against their front line. We just saw that last night. So that's going to be a problem moving forward with this team. When they run up on Minnesota, when they run up on Denver, when they run up on the Lakers, when they run up on teams that got dominant rebounders on the front line, that's definitely a problem. However, when we're talking about what we've seen, Mars, more times than not, we've seen young teams because of lack of experience, fold up in the playoffs because they're just not there yet. That doesn't mean that they're not good. We're just not there yet. Same thing with the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2011. I believe that when they lost to the Lakers in 2010 and then 2011 the next year, when they lost, I think it was Dallas. Yeah, they lost to Dallas. We're getting close. We're just not there yet. Now, is it possible
to play yesterday?
Well, they ain't fold up because they came back. They ain't fold up. They just failed. They ain't fold up. Just want to put that out there. They didn't fold up.
Okay, failed. Okay, you're right. I can get that. Sure.
Yeah, and like I can understand like there's I guess a precedent of young teams not winning, but I mean OKC made the finals. I mean, yeah, you want to say they had 3 little playoff runs before where they lost to the Lakers and then they lost to Dallas, but they still made the finals as a young team. So did the Warriors. If I go back throughout history, do I think there's many young teams that have won championships? Probably not. But that doesn't mean it's just out the realm of possibility. I think what Jalen was saying is if this same world that we live in right now existed in multiple timelines, there's some timelines where OKC win. I think that's what he's saying. It's possible that based on how good they are, how good they've been in the regular season, that I think they're a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. They're one of the best half-court offenses in the NBA. They're one of the best half-court defenses in the NBA. That's normally a formula for a team that has a chance to win a championship. Like if you look historically at the best half-court offenses, the best half-court defenses, they usually go pretty far in the playoffs. So they have the markers of a great team. And then the argument against them is some basketball reasons, like the rebounding and the size, and then others just in experience. But like, I don't think that's enough to just say they have no chance. If they have a chance, then they have a chance. That's it.
Well, let's rewind, Mars, because you just brought up the Oklahoma City Thunder, who made the NBA Finals in 2012. Well, I'm pretty sure that the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2010, when they lost to the Lakers, had a pretty damn good offense, right? I'm pretty sure that in 2011, that team, when they lost to Dallas in the Western Conference Championship, they had a pretty good offense. So in 2012, they end up making the finals because they have a pretty good offense. But they're a different team in 2012 than they were in 2009 and in 2010, which means that we're a lot closer than we were, as opposed to this is our first trip to the playoffs. I'd like to think that 2009, 2010 Oklahoma City Thunder is not close to what that 2011, 2012 team that went to the NBA Finals. I don't think those two teams are the same. And the idea with the Oklahoma City Thunder making it to the finals, is it a possibility? Well, if we look at this team in 2 years and say that they're in the NBA Finals, I'm confident that we're going to look at this team 2 years ago and go, this team wasn't close to this team. This team's way better than this team was 2 years ago, which is why we're saying that this team doesn't really have a possibility of making an NBA championship.
The 2010 Thunder were 12th in offense. So
that's above average. They're right next to the top.
They're a mediocre offense. This year's OKC Thunder, I believe, is third. But let me just check.
Right. They're right outside the top 10.
They're third.
Mediocre is like 14, 15,
Total
16.
offense or half court offense?
12 is a lot better.
I could look for OKC's half court offense, but I'd assume it was probably worse. But I can't bother to check that. And then looking back through our history, just doing a little bit of research while we were talking, the only team I can find that was comparable to OKC in age that won a championship and had no prior playoff experience is the Portland Trail Blazers with Bill Walton. That's the only team I can find.
50 plus years ago.
Yeah, they were all young. Everyone who really played was substantially under the age of 27. They had one guy who was 30, Herm Gilliam. Shout out to him. But everyone else was young. Their highest minute players 24, 23, 26, and then Herm Gilliam at 21. I mean, at 30, playing 21 minutes a game. Everyone else was young. So it's happened before. If the only example is a team 50 years ago, maybe that's not great. But it has happened before. So all I'm saying is I think it's possible. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's possible.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.